It's the Happy Families podcast. It's the podcast for the time-poor parent who just wants answers now.
I thought, because we live on the Sunshine Coast and we've only been here for a year, I thought a staycation would be heaven. I thought it would be absolutely perfect. But I think the importance of a holiday, the importance of stopping, getting away, changing up the routine, because those 3 or 4 nights on Tangalooma Island, wow.
And now here's the stars of our show, my mum and dad.
Hello, this is Dr. Justin Coulson, the founder of happyfamilies.com.au, dad to 6 children who I share with the wonderful, the incredible, the magnificent co-host of the Happy Families podcast, Mrs. Happy Families, Kylie.
I feel like there should be some clapping and cheering.
Yeah, the fanfare. You deserve it all. This is the end of our first week of podcasting as per normal. The summer series is over. The kids are back at school. At least they have been in Queensland for a week. Next week, pretty much the rest of the country toddles off back to classrooms. How good has it been? How good has it been to have like 6 hours every day where the kids are at school?
I remember thinking 6 hours a day would just be such a magical treat.
Yeah.
It goes way too fast.
It does, doesn't it?
But as much as I love having the kids home during the holidays, there gets a point where all of us, not even just the adults, the kids in the room, we're ready for the next phase. We're ready to get back into things and the
routine, purpose.
We probably could have gone back a week or two earlier.
This time, I think you're right, yeah.
But it's good to have everybody back. And for the most part, it's been a pretty good first week back.
Extracurriculars have kicked off. Kids have actually felt good about moving up a grade and moving along. We're down to 3.
I think more, not so much good. I think there's just a quiet confidence that has come. You know, we did a big move last year. The kids have been at the same school now for a whole year.
Amazing.
And we're going into a new year at the same school. And there's just this quiet sense of confidence. I know what to expect.
Security, predictability.
Yeah. And they're going in, you know, kind of knowing who their friends are.
And we've got 3 kids that are now finished school. We're down to our last 3. How easy are mornings with just 3 kids to get ready?
It definitely is a game changer.
I know anyone with 1 or 2 children who's hating it is just going, what are you talking about? It's horrible. But when you've had to do it for 6 kids to get them all off to school at once, 3 kids.
I know you were whinging, complaining about the back to school fees that are involved, school shoes, school books, all of that kind of stuff. But I can tell you right now, when I stood at the register and they told me how much it was for the 3 kids, I was like,
is that
holy smokes, that's amazing. I feel like I was getting a bargain after buying for 6 kids for so many years.
Yeah, I've been
to get down to 3. And to have kids who are just like, yeah, I've got pencils from last year, Mum, I don't need any extra. It's made such a difference.
Those back-to-school costs over the last handful of years with so many kids at school have been just crippling. I mean, it's still a lot with 3 kids, but I guess it's all relative, right? When you've been paying more than double what we're up for now, it feels like a relief.
Well, in the early days, we even used to have envelopes and we actually had to budget for back-to-school expenses the whole year.
Every week we'd put another 10 or 20 bucks in, getting ready for $30 or $40, whatever it was. Yeah, I remember those days. So, Kylie, for anyone who's new to the podcast, every Friday we do a segment called I'll Do Better Tomorrow. The idea is that if we're going to become better at parenting, if we're going to become better at anything, we want to review, we want to analyse, consider. And we don't go too hardcore. It's not like we're going to get caught up in paralysis by analysis, and we're not going to judge ourselves and feel awful when we get things wrong, although we do we do get things wrong, not feel awful, because sometimes we do that as well. But the power of regret is that we get to change. And the whole idea of I'll Do Better Tomorrow, our Friday episode of the podcast every week, is you and I get to review. And I thought that while we could just do the last week as the kids have gone back to school this week and we can review how that's gone, I thought it might be more beneficial to consider what we'll do better next holidays, next Christmas holidays specifically, because, we've just had 6 weeks off, and I don't know about you, but I don't think that we holidayed particularly well this year. I don't think it really worked all that well at all. What do you think?
It's definitely not a holiday we'd probably want to write home about.
No, definitely not. And I think the reason for that, so I'm going to go first for our I'll Do Better Tomorrow today, is these holidays, I really didn't switch off. We've got a lot going on with work at the moment, and I just had this feeling that I needed to remain attentive to emails and to, I don't know, I mean, we kept the Happy Families podcast going with the summer series. We did a whole lot of stuff that required lower levels of work than normal, but still we had to be attentive, we had to be switched on, and it just felt like having a staycation. We didn't go anywhere except for 3 nights at the end of the holidays. It just felt like it wasn't that great of a break. In fact, it didn't feel like a break in any way at all for me. I kind of finished it and was like, yeah, except for the 3 days that we had on Moreton Island. So we went across to Tangalooma Island Resort, and we had 3 fantastic nights over there, 4 days, 3 nights, just off Brisbane. I would say this, we had one of the best holidays that we've had there for those few nights that we've had in years. But in the interest of letting everyone know, if you're planning on going there, you really want to take your own food. There is food available at the resort, but it is extremely expensive, and it's such poor quality food that I threw mine in the bin, even though I paid an arm and a leg for it. But all the rest of the time we took our own food, and that was great. So had a ball, we switched off, we spent really focused time with the kids, and my I'll do better tomorrow is next year at Christmas time, we've got to take a couple of weeks and go away, even if it means we drive to the in-laws and we hang out with them for a week.
No.
To keep costs down.
No.
No, we just need to get away and have a break.
I'm sure you just read what I wrote, because as you were talking, I literally wrote 3 days is not enough. We need to book a longer time away. Yeah, because the reality is, and this is the conversation we've had, is that a staycation's only good if you're committed to actually stopping.
Yes.
But the problem with parents in general, I'm going to suggest we're all pretty similar like this. You're in the place where you work. You're in the place where life happens. And so you still got to get up and clean the house. You still got to get up and, do the grocery shopping and all of those kinds of things, where you go on holidays and everything's kind of taken care of, and it just forces you to stop.
Yeah. Or you've got a different priority set, a different routine, a different agenda. Bear in mind that there are financial constraints, but I think that we actually need to have a proper holiday for probably a couple of weeks over Christmas next year. Just, it wasn't good to not switch off. So that's my I'll do better tomorrow. It's actually a bit of a learning. I thought, because we live on the Sunshine Coast and we've only been here for a year, I thought a staycation would be heaven. I thought it would be absolutely perfect. And don't get me wrong, I really enjoyed the opportunity to get some extra surfing in. My hair actually got a little bit sun-bleached, blonde, like when I was a teenager. I mean, I feel like I'm reliving my youth in some ways. But
that doesn't have anything to do with the length of your hair at the moment, does it?
I have grown my hair a little bit as well, yeah. But I think the importance of a holiday, the importance of stopping, getting away, changing up the routine, because those 3 or 4 nights on Tangalooma Island, wow, that was so good. I'm really excited to get back there with an esky full of our own food. It'll be great.
Well, the kids are already planning the annual catch-up at Tangalooma, aren't they?
It's so well worth it. All right, Kylie, Mrs. Happy Families, I'll do better tomorrow. Over to you. What did you learn these holidays? What would you like to do better?
Well, these holidays were actually really, really tricky for me. Without going into a huge amount of detail, I've been on a little bit of a health journey of my own.
A journey. I love that word. It's a journey.
It really is. And it's been a long one. And I decided I ran out of some medication that I've been taking, just vitamins and minerals. And I decided that I'm spending a mozza on these things every week. And so maybe I don't really need them. And so I decided to take myself off them.
No, you did that about 3 or 4 months ago.
That's right. And I didn't notice anything so much in, first up, and over the next little while I started to notice I was a little bit more irritable than normal, a little bit more frustrated at life in general. But come New Year's Day, I was hit with just how exhausted I was, to the point that I got up and a few hours later I was back in bed asleep.
Yeah, you went back to sleep at about 9:30 that morning and slept for a good 2 hours.
And I'd been feeling it over those 3 months. I'd been feeling this gradual sense of exhaustion, and I just thought we've had a really big year. There's been lots of change in our lives, and I just thought that that's what it was. But when we got to New Year's and I realised just how my body just wasn't functioning, and I realised that maybe I needed to take some action and go back onto my medication, which I have done. But in the process of doing that, realised that there are some areas in my diet that needed some consideration and attention. And it was amazing. The doctor actually said to me, she said, tell me about your alcohol, your caffeine and your sugar intake. Well, I don't drink alcohol or caffeine, so I was really proud of myself. But then I kind of looked at her and I suggested that maybe the sugar intake doubled up all of the alcohol and caffeine intake that I was missing out on. And so as a result of that, she's actually put me on a ridiculously strict diet, and that's been really, really hard. And it's changed the way I interacted with the kids, because I just have struggled so much to just deal with day-to-day life, let alone be the energetic, happy, let's go exploring mum who loves to have an adventure every now and again. So holidays have been really hard for me. You didn't switch off and I was physically struggling. And I would love to say that the new year hit and everything, you know, kind of picked up and there was this new sense of energy, but it hasn't. It's been really quite difficult for me. But there was a couple of highlights through the holidays, which I just loved. And I was so grateful that in spite of the hard, that I was able to push myself a little bit to create some experiences for the kids. Baby number 3 turned 18 last January.
Oh, sorry, last year. Yeah.
And it was a bit of a hard year for her, and she didn't really feel like she wanted to celebrate. And so we just kind of let it go. But this year she was like, Mum, I'd really like to have a party for my 19th birthday. I was so excited because she's actually a kid who's had very few parties because she's just not that inclined. She's just not that kid. But she wanted to go all out. She wanted to have a sit-down meal with 10 or so friends, and, you know, we hired a photo booth, and she just wanted it to be a really pretty night. Of all my kids who would ask me for a pretty, elegant evening, she's not the child I would have thought would have gone for this. But we went and brought a table off Marketplace for $50, a dining table, and I had my neighbour cut the legs off, and they sat, I don't know what it's called, but they basically sat on a picnic table. It was just like a little coffee table, cushions on the floor, and I served them up a beautiful meal, and she was just radiating. And what I loved about that experience was watching her fill other people's cups. She took the time to write a letter to each of her friends and tell them why she loved them and why she was grateful for having them in her life. It was just such a beautiful evening. And then she decided that she wanted to sing some songs with them with her guitar. And there was just this beautiful feeling of unity and love. And to think that 12 months ago, she didn't even know these kids. And yet they have come into her life at a time where she really needed friends, but she has been such an instrumental part in lifting them as much as they've lifted her. And it was just such a beautiful celebration. I was so grateful I could be a part of it. And even now, we're a month and a half down the road, and every now and again she just pops up and she's like, Mum, thanks so much for that party. It was the best.
Ever. Yeah. So great.
So holidays were hard. They were really hard. But to have little moments like that was just, you know, magical, really magical moments. And I'm hopeful that in spite of the fact that I am not switched on all the time and I'm not the perfect mum, that those memories will be the things that will help them to remember the love that exists and my desire to do the things that will lift and elevate them.
I love that story. And I love how this kid is so attentive to others. It's beautiful. I love what you shared. We hope that there's some inspiration, some ideas, or just some high quality entertainment in today's podcast that helps you feel better about parenting and gives you some inspo for the week ahead. The Happy Families podcast is produced by Justin Rulon from Bridge Media with Craig Bruce as our executive producer. If you'd like more information about making your family happier, please visit us at happyfamilies.com.au.